So this is my 1/16 scale Jagdpanther. I built this tank about 10 years ago. Started with a hang-long all plastic that I got for like $104 from the Xenon project out in California. And then I added Asiatam lower hull with the torsion bar suspension. That came with metal road wheels with rubber tires. I put on some Tigen metal tracks and sprockets. I painted it. I did a lot of detail work to it. I put all the photo etch screens on the back where they're supposed to be. I did up the tow cables. The only thing still left to be done on this is the spare track links. I want to change those over to actual metal links instead of the plastic that comes on there. Now this is out here today mainly for size comparison, because mainly due to the generosity of a new friend, I now have in my possession a 1/6 scale Jagdpanther. Quite a difference in size, eh? Now the little one there, that's the one that I got on eBay. You guys remember they referred to it as the cheetah. And for a little while that kind of boggled some minds, because we had no idea what that was all about until someone explained to us that the seller, in his native language, the word for panther and the word for cheetah is the same, which kind of makes sense because technically there's no such thing as a panther. What people refer to as a black panther is always either just a leopard or a jaguar with some kind of throwback gene thing that makes them dark. But anyway, I now have this 1/6 scale Jagdpanther, and it's kind of a mystery. I'm told that it was built in Russia by a guy named Alex. The lower hull is all fiberglass. The upper hull, I believe, is the same material that my Hetzer was made out of. And there in the background you can see the Hetzer. Now that's a 1/6 scale Hetzer sitting next to the Jagdpanther. So you can see that in real life the Hetzer was a very small tank. They almost look like two different scales. Of course, the Jagdpanther, this 1/6 scale, is up off the ground a little bit. You can see it's sitting on a furniture dolly to make it easier to move around, so it wouldn't be quite that tall next to the Hetzer. But the footprint of length and width is good. That's they're both in 1/6 scale. Now, like I say, this thing, I'm told it was made in Russia, but the instructions are all in German. But that could be just because mainly the instructions are all about the electronics board that's in it. But I have no idea how to hook that up. And from the one photo they show with a transmitter, it looks like they're using a 10-channel transmitter for that. I'm not sure how many channels they're actually using. But I've decided to just go ahead and swap out the electronics altogether. I've already ordered a Sabertooth 2x32. That's the same system I run in the Hetzer. It's got the 6-cell LiPo to run the Sabertooth, and then a 2-cell LiPo is running an IBU2, and that gives me all my other functions like sound effects and main cannon fire and machine gun fire. And on the Hetzer I'm using what would be barrel elevation is what's rotating the remote MG34 there on the top. And what would have been the servo recoil, the servo for barrel recoil, which this tank, the Hetzer does not have, but that servo is what I'm using to pull the trigger on the paintball gun. Now this Jagdpanther is not going to get paintball, but I'm seriously considering using a high intensity flash. One thing you'll notice is that there's no muzzle brake on this tank. That's because it's right here. At some point someone cut it off, but that'll be an easy fix. I'll get a piece of thin-walled aluminum tubing and I'll make a sleeve to go in there and stick it in the other end and line it all up and probably epoxy it in place, and then with a little automotive spot putty I should be able to blend everything real nice. This will eventually be getting repainted. Now the Jagdpanther did change over the course of its production run, and the very early ones, the easiest way to tell the difference between the very early ones and the ones they were making right up until the end of the war is that the early ones had a one-piece gun barrel. On this one you can see that it has the two-piece gun barrel, which means that the diameter of the gun barrel gets bigger back towards the mantlet, just like this. But on the earlier versions it was just a straight gun tube, and that's what we have here. Also, and I still haven't researched this out to my own satisfaction, but I believe another quick way to tell is that the earlier versions had 5 pairs of track links, spare track links. 3 on the left side, which you can see here the brackets are there for, and I do have the I do have the track links. I have enough for all the spare track links plus 4 extra links, which is good because you can see right here I've got a broken link there that needs to be replaced. But I believe the earlier ones had the 5 with 3 on the left and 2 on the right, and then the later ones had 6 with 3 on each side. But I still have to prove that to myself by researching photos. Now this tank it's in pretty good shape. It is going to be a lot of work, but I've got a really good basis to start with. A lot of the detail stuff is here. You can see it's got all the Pioneer tools and stuff already mounted on the side. I am missing half a hatch right there. I'm thinking I might get with a buddy of mine that owns Armortech and see if he can get me a hatch from Armortech. I don't think Armortech will sell one to me because I've never bought an Armortech, and with them, pretty much if you've never bought for them, you know, you can't join their forum, and they pretty much don't even want to talk to you unless you're a customer. But I got enough friends that I should be able to get that. I need the hatch, and I also need a headlight, because you can see on this one the front cover is missing. With this tank, pretty much what you see is what I've got, except for the spare track links, and I've only got one of the exhaust mufflers mounted on here right now. And I'm not sure, I got to check that too. On the early ones, you can just see the one that's mounted there, which is pretty much the same as what is on this Panther G. You can see it's got the same style mufflers on there. Now the Jagdpanthers that I have in 1/16 scale both have the elbow type like this. So I need a little more research there to figure out which is correct and then make it happen. But these parts should be fairly easy to get, and I'm going to add the metal mesh. I'll probably open up these vents right here and add metal mesh to them. I'll do metal mesh on both of the circular vents and all 4 of the rectangular ones. Once I get that, I also need a sight for the gunner, which I'll come up with, you know, one way or another if I have to scratch build it or what. I could probably do something similar to what's on the Hetzer. You can see that right there. There's the gun sight. I don't know. I'm sure I can probably find an STL file for that pretty easy. I'm also not real sure about the machine gun on this. To me, I'm sorry, it just does not look like an MG34. And I suppose technically it should have the armored barrel like the one on the Hetzer. But they don't look anything alike. So if I have to, I'll just pick up another armored barrel kit and swap that in. Now this tank is already set up for barrel recoil. The servo is in place. This tank does not have any kind of option for traverse, and I do not intend to change that. I'll just leave it with just elevation, and the elevation in there is on a motor, and I've got a bunch of those 10 and 20 amp ESCs that I use for the little trucks. I'm pretty sure I can just use one of those, then connect it directly to the up and down on the left stick, and that should take care of barrel elevation. Then I'll put in the saber tooth, which, like I say, has already been ordered. Will hopefully be here by the end of the week. And I've already ordered speakers for it, and I was quite pleased that those have gone down considerably in price. I'm going to go with the same system as I have in the Hetzer. That, like I say, it runs off the IBU for sound effects and all that. And I have the TPA amp in there, which automatically splits your sound into 2 different channels. One for just engine sounds and one for everything else, like machine gun fire, main gun fire, elevation and rotation noise, that kind of thing. And so I've got the speakers. I got those. They were only $11 each now, and they're 4-inch, 4-ohm, 50-watt, full-range speakers, and I think they're going to work just fine. I'll do the same as I did with the Hetzer, and I'll build a custom speaker box for them out of 5mm floor underlayment. It should work out real well. The system in the Hetzer on that TPA amp, man, I can hear that thing from over a block away. It's just got a really tremendous sound effects system there with just the amp on the IBU too. But it's, like I say, it's going to be a lot of work. There's a long ways to go on it, but this is going to be my summer project. Probably when the weather gets nicer, I'll probably move it out to the garage and work on it there. I definitely want to repaint it. Like I said, I have the spare track links to hang on there. Most of the other details are already in place. I will have to scratch build a track cable. I'm going to see if I can maybe get Armortech tow cables. If not, I'll build them myself. If I have to, I'll 3D print the ends, the cable ends, and then use like I'll get the appropriate size, like garage door cable or picture hanging cable or whatever I need to get to make that happen. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. I'm hoping to have the Sabertooth in it and have it running by next weekend. I plan to use the IBU2, so I'm first going to try everything on a 3S LiPo, because if a 3S LiPo gives enough power to drive the tank through the Sabertooth, I can also use the same battery to power the IBU2, because it can be used on a 3S. If that doesn't work, I'll have to split them, and I'll probably just, instead of putting in a step down, I'll probably just put in two separate batteries, one 6S to run the main drive, and a 2 or 3S just to run the IBU. That'll also give me smoke and lights and all my sound effects. And we're using Y cables. The engine sounds will still match up with the Sabertooth. And I think it's going to be a pretty cool project. So if you want to stay tuned, there'll be more to come. Now on this one, it does have metal tracks. And I believe the road wheels are resin, but they do have rubber tires on them, which is cool. So it's the suspension is like the hang-along tanks, where it's along the sides of the inside of the lower hull and uses springs. It is not a torsion bar suspension. But I've tested it, and it actually has a pretty good suspension in it. It's got lots of travel. It's got good flex. It's going to look very realistic running over the road. I also have to reattach the muzzle brake and hook up the barrel recoil and test the motor for barrel elevation. When I post this at the forum, I'll also post a photo of the gearboxes that are in there. They look pretty good. I'm just going to clean them and re-grease them. It's got two motors in it that I have no idea what size they are, but like I said, I'm pretty sure it runs on 12 volts. So we'll get all that together. Eventually we'll give it a new paint job. I'm kind of thinking I might go ahead and match this Jagdpanther. This one is what I call period correct. Those are not the numbers of any real Jagdpanther that I could find, but the camouflage pattern is correct for the period. The numbers are correct for the period. I did find those red numbers with white outline. I did find those on actual Jagdpanthers in the photos from the war. And then, like I say, just minor details. I might add a little stowage in there. But, man, is that a difference in size. From the Cheetah to the new tank, man. And I'm still kind of tripped out over how much bigger the Jagdpanther was than the Hetzer. I've always kind of thought of the Hetzer as like the sports car of tank destroyers. But it was a really tiny little vehicle in comparison to a Jagdpanther, which is, at least as big as a Tiger, but not as big as a King Tiger. But that's the project for the summer. The new 1/6 scale Jagdpanther. I still have the M5 Stuart to work on, and I still got to do something with the 1/6 scale 1936 Mercedes-Benz 540K. We'll get around to that. Of course, I've still got the two Jeeps, and I've still got this project, the 1/6 scale M3 Scout car. So my 1/6 scale collection is kind of growing steadily. I now have 3 1/6 scale tanks, 2 Jeeps, and an M3 Scout car, along with the Mercedes. The 2 Jeeps are pretty much finished. The Mercedes needs a little electronics work. The M3 Scout car I haven't even started on. It's still a toy. And the same with the M5 Stuart. It is radio control, but it's very toy-like, and I'm going to try and run that. I know that runs on a 12-volt system, so I'm going to try that on 3S LiPo, and I think I'm going to try it just on an IBU and see if it's a very light plastic tank. So I think the IBU will handle it, and if I end up blowing fuses, then I'll go ahead and put in a Sabertooth and hook the system up the same way it'll be on the Hetzer and the 1/6 scale Jagdpanther. So that's the new project. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.